Welcome back, everybody. My name is Nicholas Bogroff Gansel, and I am creatively bankrupt. So today, we're going to be jumping into a little show called Police Squad. Basically, what I know about it is that this was the precursor to the Naked Gun movies. It's the same group who created Airplane, Top Secret, and obviously The Naked Gun. And it's just supposed to be a gag-driven comedy like those. But my understanding is Leslie Nielsen plays the same character he plays in The Naked Gun, which is why the first Naked Gun movie was actually called The Naked Gun from the Files of Police Squad. So yeah, I'm expecting it to be funny. It's possible a lot of the humor won't have aged well. I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything specific about it, other than I know every episode ends with a freeze frame, but it's not a real freeze frame. It's all the actors like freeze, and like the camera keeps rolling, and sometimes maybe some of the uninitiated characters don't freeze. So, yeah, no, it should be interesting. Part of what I'm interested to see is that in the original Airplane movie, the execution of a lot of the gags wasn't quite on point. So, like, they had the whole Saturday Night Fever scene, and there's the bit where he, like, does the disco move and his clothes rip off, and underneath he's got the white disco suit. But the speed at which the clothes ripped off was way too slow for the joke to really land the way you want. So by the time he's standing there in the disco suit, you've already fully processed what's happening. That being said, at the time in, I think it was 1980, no one had seen anything like this before, because they were doing, like, gags you would see in an animated movie and a live-action movie, so there was a lot more room for error in terms of the gags landing, because people didn't know what they were seeing immediately. It took them longer to process it, because they didn't expect that type of humor in a live-action context. At least, I'm assuming. So, given that, a lot of the jokes were funny on paper, but not all of them landed completely in execution. Whereas by Top Secret in 1984, almost every single visual gag they do was perfectly executed. And so of these gag-driven comedies, Top Secret is my personal favorite. But I'd be really curious to see how well the gags land in this. Because this came out in 82 between Airplane and Top Secret. And I'm just really interested to see, did they nail the execution or were they still working it out? Yeah. So, let's dive into this because I am excited. Oh, and remember, if you're watching my video without watching the original content first, you're doing the content a disservice and you're doing yourself a disservice. If you really do want your first experience of Police Squad to involve me, then head over to my Patreon. For just $1, you can get access to my uncut reactions that you can play alongside the original content. Let's get started.
Police Squad.
Woo!
In color.
Dun dun dun!
Starring Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah!
Also starring Alan North. And Rex Hamilton as Abraham Lincoln.
Okay, that was excellent.
Tonight's
Did not see that going that way.
Lorne Green. Tonight's episode, The Broken Promise.
Okay, I get why all the episodes are like that now. They have the in parentheses, because they're always going to say the wrong time. That's funny.
I'll think of something. I've got to.
Look, Sally, you know I'd like to help you, but with the auditors coming in, I've got to balance the book.
This is something that got lost after Airplane, was the melodramatic conversations that feel like they're stolen exactly from a bad TV movie. Because in Airplane, they were. Reorganizing as he dies. I love that. Trying to file it. Successfully filing it. Yeah! Hit the trash can. 20 points.
Can I talk to her?
Sure.
That is a ridiculous gurney. Posing with the body.
Well, when I first heard the shot, and as I turned, Jim fell.
He's the teller, Frank.
Jim Fell's the teller.
No, Jim Johnson.
Who's Jim Fell?
He's the auditor, Frank.
He had the flu, so Jim filled in.
Phil who?
Phil Din. He's the night watchman, Frank.
If only Phil had been here.
Now, wait a minute. Let me get this straight.
That dialogue could be a
Came in
little
and shot
faster,
the teller and
but
Jim Fell.
No, he only shot the teller, Jim Johnson. Fell is ill.
Okay, then after he shot the teller, you shot twice.
No, I only shot once.
Twice he's the hold-up man.
Then I guess I did shoot twice.
Well, so now you're changing your story.
No, I shot twice after Jim fell.
You shot twice and Jim Fell?
No, Jim fell first, and then I shot twice once.
Well, who fired twice?
Once.
He's the owner of the tire company, Frank.
it's very who's on first.
Once is the owner of the tire company, and he fired twice. Then twice shot the teller once.
Twice.
And Jim fell, and then you fired twice.
Once.
We think we know how he did it.
Oh, how he couldn't have done it. He hasn't been in for weeks.
Thank you.
An old one, but a classic. Although this might be where they pioneered it.
Our next stop was a neighborhood known as Little Italy. A criminal investigation seldom follows a straightforward, clear-cut course. This
That
one was
background is
obviously
funny.
no exception.
Please go away. Please go away. I don't want to answer any more of your questions.
Well, we're sorry to bother you at a time like this, Mrs. Twice. We would have come earlier, but your husband wasn't dead then.
Ralph was such a good man. Do you know what it's like to be married to a wonderful man for 14 years?
No, I can't say that I do. I did live with a guy once, though, but that was just for a couple of years.
Did he have any enemies?
Well, the Democrats didn't like him.
Sure, he was a physical education major, but he had a mind. He could think. It wasn't all
He's still on his own
all
tangent.
body, all sinewy limbs.
I know this is a long shot, but did he ever eat chop suey?
I know. No, he never did.
It was just a hunch.
I told him she was wrong.
My daughter, what am I going to tell her?
Yeah, you're gonna have to tell her something. Tell her he went on a long trip.
Oh, wait a minute. How about a big monster came and took him to daddy heaven?
Oh.
Nah.
What about this? He threw himself on a grenade and saved the battalion. Yeah, that's it.
No, wait a minute. He was killed by left-wing insurgents from Paraguay. No, Bolivia.
I got it. He was traded to the Cubs for Reggie Jackson.
No further progress was made in the next 10 hours. The following morning, I reported back to police squad.
Good. We got a perspective gag in there. You always need a perspective gag.
Now, McBean, you're going to be the teller. Brucing, you're Ralph Twice.
Please shoot
The
him.
tape indicates the path the bullet took. All right. Hold-up man enters, demands money, and fires. I
Yes!
spent most of the afternoon trying to determine the possible angles.
That's what I was
the bullets
hoping would
might have been
happen.
fired. Reenactment of a crime in this way can be a helpful tool in a criminal investigation. After several hours, I had some interesting theories, but still nothing conclusive. Do you know anything about the double killings at the Acme Credit Union?
You're barking up the wrong tree with this Ralph Twice.
Thanks, Johnny.
What do you know about life after death?
I wouldn't know anything about it. You talking existential being or anthropomorphic deity?
One of those all-night wicker places. Shirlow had done some time years earlier for a minor offense. He had remembered the dentist's name.
Oh,
Dr.
wicker
Robert
television.
Zubatsky.
Mr. Drebin, Dr. Zubatsky will see you now. You're next, Carl.
Are those x-rays ready, Miss Frenzel?
Yes, Doctor. Would you like to take a look?
Yes, I would.
Okay, I didn't see that coming. The sound effect really sold it. And of course the bib is useless.
Sally Decker. Sally Decker, that name rings a bell. Huh? No, I can't place it. Look, I'm telling you, I don't know her. All right, I know her. She was a patient of mine. Her lower left quadrant was all messed up, but so what? Okay, look, she's a good-looking dame. We went out and had a laughs, a couple of drinks, but that's the whole story.
How do you know that?
Went through his files. Sally was seeing Zavatsky. 6 years, maybe 7. 8 times a year. Always in arrears, and suddenly 24 hours after the killing, she's paid up in full.
Well, it looks like she's in this thing up to a pretty little ears. Was the dentist cooperative?
Yeah, he gave us plenty of rope. Now we have to see if we can get Sally to stick her head into the noose.
Yeah.
I like the subtle gags they're doing. It's not as frenetic as some of their later work, but it's a lot of conceptual gags.
Hello?
Hello, Sally. This is Dr. Zavatsky.
I need to talk to you.
Ah!
Sorry, Beezy, we're through.
She's already killed 2 men. You better watch your step.
What? I did not see that one coming. That genuinely caught me off guard.
Sally Decker has no record. But Sally was formerly Babs Caltrain, notorious gun runner in Memphis. Only difference is Babs has red hair. Before that, she was a brunette hitman named Zazu Pitts. Before that, she sang backup for Aretha Franklin.
All right, Frank. Did your research
Really coming
reveal
down
that
on the
I did a
world.
stint with the Marines and re-up?
From gun runner down to bank teller.
I can't say that it did.
And of course, another perspective gag. Those are always great. But of course, they have like 1,000,000 bullets.
Sally!
All right, Sally. You're under arrest. Sergeant, take her away and book her.
Sergeant, take her away. Sergeant Booker.
Ah, of course.
Well, that was some pretty fancy police work, Frank. Now, how did you know that the money Sally gave to Dr. Zavatsky wasn't traceable?
I didn't.
Huh?
But neither did Sally.
The blinking.
Be sure to tune in next week for another exciting story from the files of Police Squad.
Nice. So that was Police Squad. I enjoyed it. It was funny. You could see a lot of the classic Zucker Brothers style in there. They did a lot of perspective gags, which are par for the course for them. I still think some of their best perspective gags are done in Top Secret, like with the giant phone. But there were some very good ones in here. Tripping over the telephone pole, because it was a big telephone pole, so it looked like it was in front of him and he was going to walk behind it, but in fact he tripped on it. The whole thing with shooting at each other, where it's like, bang, bang, oh no, you're so far away, and then they cut to the 2-shot, and it's like, nah, you're right there. Yeah, overall, I'd say the gags in this landed. They weren't always maximized to the point where I was laughing out loud, but it never felt like they executed them improperly. So, like, the dialogue in the interrogation scene where they're asking her what happened was very who's on first, and it was very funny, but I wanted it to be faster. However, to a television audience in 1982, I understand why they slowed it down so that you would have the time to laugh and also the time to follow it and process what they were saying. And the difference, I guess, between that bit and a bit like Who's on First is that very quickly within Who's on First, within the first minute or so, you know all the characters' names, you know what the joke is, and you no longer have to follow every single thing that's being said, because it's not introducing new information to you. It's just a continued cycle of failure. And yeah, every once in a while they bring in, today, tomorrow, why, because, but when they do, they slow down enough that you can keep up and figure out, oh, this is new information. Whereas in this piece of dialogue, it was constantly new information. So I wouldn't even consider it necessarily a fault that it was slower. I just think I would have laughed harder had it been slightly faster. But if it had been too much faster, I probably would have laughed and covered important information and would have gotten lost in the joke and wouldn't have ended up laughing as much as I did. So overall, I do think the execution worked on most of these gags. I found it interesting that they did more gags that drew attention to the process of filmmaking than I'm used to seeing. So, like, the gag with the car background and it not matching how he's steering, and then later he's in Little Italy, but it's like actual Italy behind him. I'm not saying they never did those, because I'm not fluent enough in their movies to assert with confidence that they didn't. I just don't remember specifically focusing on the process of filmmaking while watching their movies. Whereas when watching this, I specifically was thinking about the process of television making. Like, in their movies, when crazy shit happens, it usually violates reality. And I feel like, oh, they're making a joke about the fabric of reality being shifted, or about assumptions I made. You know what? There was one. So in Top Secret, there is a gag that's a joke about the language of cinema, where he's sitting in the train car, and you see the train station start to disappear as the train picks up. But then as it goes, you realize that the train is perfectly still, and the train station is on wheels and driving away. And that is a joke about specifically the language of film. And I suppose the forced perspective gags are largely jokes about filmmaking, but I don't specifically find myself thinking about... Because the thing about the forced perspective gags is what they're drawing attention to is not a trick of filmmaking. Because in filmmaking, it's just a shot where it's like close up of the phone, guy in the background, guy walks up, picks up the phone. There's no trick there. It's not like a flaw or a sleight of hand that's filmmakers use. The sleight of hand completely comes through the subversion of actually it's a really big phone and he's really close to it. So even those that use film language and cinema language to subvert expectation, they don't quite draw your attention to the language of cinema the same way that things like having the wrong background and the gunshot stuff, the fact that there was no smoke coming out of the gun, there was no anything on their stomach, it was like just cheesy, bad television deaths. That's the other thing. The performances in this were what you need to make this kind of show work, because all of the Zucker Brothers material is very deadpan, because the absurdities don't work unless they're juxtaposed against, the very serious, stoic outer facade. And they really nailed that in this. But yeah, it's a style of humor that you really don't see anywhere other than the Zucker Brothers. And Angie Tribeca. That's the only show I can think of that actually nails this style of humor that isn't produced or written by the Zucker Brothers. They really They pioneered this style and they perfected it. And with the exception of Angie Tribeca, I've never seen any other project come close. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the rest of the series. So come back next time, and we will check out another episode of Police Squad. And as always, please like and subscribe, because I would love to have y'all coming back on the regular.